Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tip-Off 2024-2025. Ron Poniewasz at the new building is joined by Larry Kelly, a member of the Luxembourg, Garbutt, Kelly & George law firm, the assistant baseball coach at Penn State Shenango, former varsity baseball coach at Shenango High School. He was on Ralph Blundow's staff this year at Newcastle High School. Also, got to mention it, Larry, former Holy Redeemer coach as well.
Absolutely. I never had more fun coaching than I did coaching the 5th and 6th grade girls at Holy Redeemer. I loved it.
How long was that run?
Well, I started with the 3rd and 4th grade girls, so I was probably there about 6 years.
Okay. All right.
I loved every minute of it. It was great.
Good.
It was great.
Okay, on this week's show, we have a couple portions of Athlete of the Week that we will tell you about. Larry will have his say-so on the Red Hurricane Minute. We'll tell you, we'll talk a little bit about what everybody has been chattering about a little bit on a state playoff game for boys action. And then we have a scenario that I want to give Larry. And when we take a break, I will fill him in. Actually, before we go to break, I will fill him in on the scenario, and then we'll take a break. It'll almost be like a full timeout. That'll be his time to figure out what he's going to do, so he doesn't have 10 minutes or 24 hours to figure out what he's going to do. He will have essentially a full timeout.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. But first, Athlete of the Week. And for this week, our Athletes of the Week are Maggie Alfera and Casey Wilson. They are Laurel High wrestlers, and they won state medals at last weekend's PIAA Wrestling Championships. Maggie Alfera at 136 took 3rd place. Casey Wilson at 285 heavyweight was 6th place. Larry, very good performances for juniors, and Maggie Alfera is competing in her very first year as a wrestler.
You know, when I was at Slippery Rock University, they had one of the best wrestling programs in the country. And what I learned is that the wrestlers, they are the toughest, most committed, most disciplined athletes in any sports program. They pay the price. And to be able to do what those two wrestlers have done at Laurel this year, to win a medal at the state competition, you realize there are hundreds, if not thousands, of wrestlers in this state. And to bring home a 3rd and a 6th place in the state wrestling competition is really impressive. It speaks to their dedication, to their commitment, to their willing to pay the price to be successful. And the fact that Maggie was a first-year wrestler really speaks volumes about her talent and her commitment, because, you know, that sport, I watched the ACC Wrestling Championship the other day on TV. It's all technique. It's all about, you know, technique and being in the right place at the right time. And it's really impressive what these two young athletes have done.
Yeah, Maggie was 5-1 at the PIAA Championships, taking 3rd place in the girls bracket, this was the 2nd year for the girls bracket. And Casey Wilson was 4-3 in the boys bracket, in 6th place finisher. And as you well know, Casey Wilson plays football as well for Laurel. So good technique, you know, on the line, you know, offense and defense, and then brings that, you know, maneuverability to wrestling.
And, you know, Laurel, their wrestling program has really been something special in Lawrence County. I think Grant McKay was a 2-time state champ. I believe he's now wrestling at the University of Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And they have one of the best wrestling programs in the ACC. So, you know, my hat's off to these two young athletes. The commitment, the dedication, the ability to pay the price to achieve medals at the state level is truly worthy of being Athlete of the Week.
Okay, the Union girls basketball team was named Athlete of the Week for the previous week, so let's honor them as well. They won their 3rd straight WPIAL championship late February, defeating Clairton 51-40 to win the championship down at the University of Pittsburgh's Peterson Event Center. Larry, that's quite an accomplishment. On top of it, they finished district play 25-0.
There was a time when my girls were playing basketball at Riverside that the game at Union was an automatic win. It was just a matter of what the score was going to be. Well, not anymore. Rob Nogue has turned that program around, and to three-peat is not easy. We did it at Newcastle a couple of times, so I know how difficult it is. And when you're playing one-and-done basketball in tournament play, one bad night, one bad shooting night, one off night, one night when one of your key players get in foul trouble could end the dream. But Union, they got it done, and that is impressive. To win 3 in a row is certainly something to be proud of.
Yeah, they really had a rough game in the semifinals, where they pulled it out in overtime, 47-45. Kylie Frustorfer saved that one. They trailed late in regulation on a couple of occasions by at least 4 points or more, and they were able to dig down deep and find a way to win. Otherwise, they wouldn't have even got to the Peterson Event Center, much less had a chance to defend their 2 previous titles.
Ronnie, there's always a game or two along the way before the gold medal that could upset the apple cart. And even at Newcastle, in undefeated seasons, when we won championships, there was a game or two that always tested our mettle. And, you got to win those games. You got to know how to win those games when maybe your shooting is a little bit off or one of your players is in foul trouble. You got to be able to perform and execute at the highest level when, as I like to say, the pressure gets so high you can't spit. And Union's done that. And they've done it 3 years in a row, and that's impressive.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that about tight ball games. Union won the Section 1-1A championship this year with a 14-0 record, defeating teams by an aggregate count of 60-21, darn near 40 points a game. So they didn't have too many tests, at least in section play. And then naturally they finished 25-1. They lost their first and only state playoff game to Williamsburg by about 13 points, I believe it was. So through the completion of the season, 26 games, they outscored their opponents 55-29.3, which I had been wondering all season long. How good's the competition in the WPIAL at the 1A landscape? How good's the competition in the section if they're winning every game by an average of 40 points a game? And then they get the WPIAL championship, and I said, all right, well, let's find out how the state playoffs are. And on their home court, they lost by 13.
Ronnie, what I've learned in the girls' game, and it's kind of changed. There's no middle ground anymore. You're either good or you're not. And therefore, there's a lot of mercy rule games. And Union's obviously good. And, I was watching Newcastle scores. On Tuesday, they would win a game invoking the mercy rule. And on Friday, they would get mercy ruled. So there's kind of like no middle ground. You're either really good or you're not in the women's game right now. And that's especially true at the single A level because, you don't have a lot of students to pick from. And, you might have a team that's senior laden. They have a really good year. And the very next year, you're starting all sophomores. And again, unless you're really a special athlete, sophomores don't beat seniors very often in high school basketball.
They being Union, Kelly Cleaver to graduation after last year. Kelly Cleaver playing Division II basketball, I believe it is, scored well over 1,000 points career. So, Larry, how surprised are you that Union had as good of a year as they did? 25-0 through WPIAL play, 25-1 completion of the season, third straight WPIAL championship. you lost that quality player. Are you surprised that they were that good after losing the caliber of player that Kelly Cleaver is?
No, because they've developed the culture under Coach Nogue, and the girls are excited about playing. And I got two words for you. Kylie Frustorfer. That young lady is something special. I believe it was last year, not this year, in the WPIAL championship game, she grabbed 14 rebounds. And I've always said it's easier to get 14 points than get 14 rebounds. So they still had some special players, and she was one of them.
Yeah, we have both watched and enjoyed the movie Moneyball, and the principle of that is one of them, anyways, is Jason Giambi goes to another team and they recreate his numbers in the aggregate, as they're saying. Is there any way when somebody like Kelly Cleaver graduates that a coach could say, we have to recreate that person in the aggregate, meaning if you averaged 9 points a game last year, you've got to average 12 this year and an additional 3 rebounds. Can you recreate it in the aggregate, kind of like that movie?
That's a very interesting question, but I would suggest that the answer is yes. You can't replace her one on one. She was a special, special player. But if you get other players who step up and just are able to increase their production incrementally, like you said, go from 9 points a game to 12 points a game, go from 5 rebounds a game to 7 rebounds a game, and you get one or two players who can do that, then you can go 25-1 as the Union Scotties did and win yet a third WPIAL championship. So, the proof's in the pudding. They did it.
Mm-hmm. They're going to lose a lot of players to graduation. I believe Addie Nogay graduates, as does Mia Cruz. There's 4 of them that graduate. Hayden Strickler, I believe, graduates. That's at least 3 of them. So it's going to be difficult replacing that class. Finding a replacement for one girl that averages what she did in Kelly Cleaver, that's one thing. When you lose 4, that's going to be difficult next year. But like you said, Rob Nogay's a great coach.
Well, but you got to have players, and the key is, has he developed a culture that gets these young women excited at the elementary level, at the junior high level, and if that's been happening, then he will have players who will be able to step into those roles and have success.
We all know there's an advantage to being the home team, to playing at home. And at LGKG, we have been your home team for personal injury cases involving automobile accidents and workers' compensation claims for over 90 years. At LGKG, over 10,000 clients have trusted us to represent them. We know how to present your case to a Western Pennsylvania jury. We know what makes them tick. We know how to win.
And right now we're going to go into our talking points. First off, we're going to talk about the Red Hurricane Minute. We'll let Larry tell you all about the Newcastle boys basketball team, how they finished out the season. And after that, we will talk about what everybody else is talking about, and that's the Meadville-Uniontown saga. But first off, Larry, what do you know? What can you tell us about the Newcastle boys basketball team?
Well, we lost the WPIAL championship. And, truth be told, Upper St. Clair played better than us that day. It's not that we played poorly, because we didn't, but they played better. We didn't shoot it real well from 3, which I think we needed to do to win the game. And, we score a lot of points in the paint with dribble penetration. And, they had a kid in there, 6'10", that did a pretty good job of making sure that we weren't scoring in the paint. Kai Cox, first team all conference, outstanding 9th grader, averaging 17, 18 points a game. He had 5 points in that game. Why? Because even when he beat his guy off the dribble, which he did often, there was the 6'10" player whose name escapes me right now waiting for him. And, the first half in that game didn't end as the way we wanted it to. We gave a second chance opportunity on a missed box out on a foul shot. We don't do that. And then we're playing for the last shot and we turned it over, and we don't do that either. But truth be told, Upper St. Clair played a little bit better than us that day, and they deserved to win. They deserved to win. They out-rebounded us about 2-1 in that game. And, they were a good basketball team, and they're still alive in the state tournament.
Right.
And when we lose in the first state playoffs, it was a great game. It was a one-possession game that could have went either way. And we had a chance at the end and just didn't get it done. But it was a great game, played well between two really good. And just one possession game, shot doesn't go down. It's just basketball, Ronnie.
Mm-hmm.
There were games that those shots did go down for us. In our run to the state championship, I never forget it. We're up by 3 points. They have a chance. Shoot, help me, Ronnie. Who are we playing? I'm having a senior moment here. We're playing in the state semifinal game.
In the state playoff.
We're playing it at Chambersburg, and we're playing.
Abington.
Abington. Sorry. Yeah, we're playing Abington. They get a wide open look from the corner that slid across the front of the rim. If the ball has another quarter of an inch on the arc, it goes in, and who knows what happens in that game. So, a lot of times it comes down to just one shot, one play, one rebound. And we had a great season, 21-5. That's a pretty darn good year. Section champs again, WPIAL silver medalist, runner-up again, third time in 4 years. We had a great year. And the kids should be proud of it because it was in 6A, the highest classification, playing schools that have, student enrollments that are 3 and 4 times higher than us. And we held our own. And to the extent that we were the second best team in 6A in the West, and that's something to be proud of.
Yeah, that was my next question. Do you deem the season a success? But it sounds like you do.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, to lose in the WPIAL championship game, if you don't think that's a successful season, there's something wrong with you. And I know that, we're spoiled at Newcastle. We go to those games and win. But just to get there is quite an accomplishment. So many things got to go right for you to even get to that game. And sometimes you just get beat by a team that plays better than you that night. And that's what happened. Nothing to be ashamed of. They played better.
Lost 51-49 in the state playoffs opening round at home to Cumberland Valley. What did you think of the opposing coach's strategy? Apparently they had 0 team fouls going down the stretch with like 19 seconds left, and they burned 4 of those team fouls up until 12 seconds left, getting them to the brink of a free throw parade, but they stopped after 4 fouls. What did you think of that strategy?
Well, I thought it was a great strategy for fouls 1, 2, and 3. But quite frankly, I thought it was a poor strategy to pick up the 4th foul because they only bought 2 seconds off the clock, Ronnie. And now, if we take the ball to the hole and get fouled, we're going to the line. We're going to the line for 2 shots. So every good coach would have fouled the first 3 times to burn time off the clock. But I thought it was a poor strategy fouling the 4th time. Because, again, we were just inbounding the ball, and they were immediately fouling us. And I think they bought 2 seconds with the 4th foul. And it really, I thought, was poor strategy because if we get some dribble penetration and they only have 3 and they're beat off the dribble, you could foul somebody before they get the shot off. But now they're not in that situation. Had they done that, we're going to the line for 2. And again, we got a great look at the end of the game. It went in and out, just didn't go down. Quarter of an inch and it goes in, and we walk them off. So, but it was a great season. 21-5 is a great season. And, if you remember in the middle of that season, we weren't playing Newcastle basketball. But then, after that loss that we had to, it was at home. We lost to
North Hills.
I'm sorry?
Wasn't it North Hills?
Not North Hills. After the North Hills game, we lost at home to Woodland Hills.
Okay.
I think we ran off 9-10 in a row. It was kind of a wake-up call, and all of a sudden, we're playing Newcastle basketball. We're executing on the offensive end and the defensive end and playing inspired basketball. And, I got to give a shout-out to little Ralphie Blundo. I'm biased. He's been around the program since he was, 4 years old, I think. And it wasn't just his play that I thought was inspiring, but it was his leadership. It was his leadership. He set the tone in every game. And, in the locker room, outside of the locker room, on the court, off the court, I'm proud of that young man. He had a great year.
Yeah.
As did Kyrell Harris, another senior on the team. It was a good year. You can't say 21-5 is a bad year.
Ralphie Blundo graduates from Newcastle, scoring 1,173 career points. We have him at 48 points as a freshman, 246 more as a sophomore, 490 in his junior year, 389 as a senior. That's an aggregate assessment of 1,173 points for Ralphie Blundo. Larry, if you could put it into words, maybe what the message was from Ralph Blundo moments after the game in the locker room, because at the WPIAL championship, he mentioned that in terms of him and his son, he's had to put 3 silver medals around his neck, his son's neck, and then Saturday's game, Newcastle loses, and that's the final game for his son as a player at Newcastle. But for the team, what was Ralph's message to the team after the season ended?
He was proud of those guys. It was emotional. Ronnie, I'm 71 years old, and I was crying in the locker room. And I'm too old to be crying in the locker room after a high school basketball game. It was emotional. It just really was. And, when you coach your son and it's the last time you're going to get an opportunity to do that, it was emotional. And yeah, yours truly, I was crying like a baby in there. So, but it was a beautiful moment. It's what sports is all about. They say the thrill of victory and the agony of the defeat, the emotions are the same. They're just different. It's a different emotion. But the strength and the feeling of that emotion in both circumstances is absolutely the same. And I've been there. I've been there winning championships, and I've been there consoling my guys, after we lost championships. And it was a beautiful moment.
Where did the time go, Larry? Because like you mentioned, Ralphie's been around the program since he was 4, and now here he is, he's graduating. And it was almost like a blink of an eye. Here he is running around, getting rebounds for the varsity players prior to games or at halftime of games, being the rebound guy and interacting with them. Now all of a sudden, here he is. He's the star of the team, and he's had a great career. But it's like a blink of an eye. He's grown up and is ready to go on to college.
As you know, Ronnie, I always sit on the end of the bench. And the reason I did that early on, you're supposed to sit with the other coaches, but I did that because I wanted to make sure that little Ralphie and little Jimmy Rowe, Ralph Blundo's nephew, wouldn't run on the court, when things got really exciting. They were like 4 and 5 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been in the blink of an eye. And then after we started winning all those championships, I'm superstitious. I never moved up with the coaches. I never did it because, I'm superstitious. I'm going to sit at the end of the bench because when I do, we win all the games. So, yeah, it's been a great ride.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have to transition now to a story that nobody likes to see at any sporting event, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, softball, what have you, and that's fans not being able to just stay in the seats. Refrain from being opinionated, whether it's be to other fans or the referees or getting physical. But we had a very ugly incident. Meadville and Uniontown boys basketball teams playing each other in Class 5A, and resulted in a double forfeiture with Meadville leading 63-55 with about 3 minutes and change left. Before we get into the other particulars, Larry, I'll throw this scenario at you, and you tell me if you agree with it or disagree with it. What I thought they should have done is clear the gym. Clear the gym, everybody. The only people left in the gym are the members of both teams, the officiating crew, the people at the scorer's table. You could even tell the media, you're out. You could either kick them out with the fans, or you could send them to a cafeteria or something, and they could watch a feed off of NFHS, whatever. Finish the last 3 minutes, because it was 8 points is very competitive. If it was 18 points, I'd say, okay, I think you know what the outcome's going to be. But clear the gym, let them play, so you know for sure that Meadville's the winning team. That's first off, and second of all, I fully support the double forfeiture. You've got to make a statement somewhere, so this stops now, so you don't start seeing it every round where fans are just going to get involved in fights and having people go at people, and fans need to buy bigger pants or belts that fit, because next thing you know, you got pants around the ankles and people throwing punches, and that's ridiculous.
Ronnie, logistically, what you suggested in clearing the gym would have been very, very difficult. How many police are there? It might have been, it could have taken a half hour potentially to clear the gym. So logistically, that would have been very difficult. I don't know what was going on during the game on either bench, but here's what I know. I've always said, listen, I'm not saying I was a great basketball coach, but I've been doing it for 25 years, and I've never had a technical foul in 25 years. Why? Because I know that if the coach loses his or her composure, then the players are going to lose their composure. And when the players lose their composure, then crazy stuff starts to happen. What happened at that game is unacceptable. I'm not a big fan of the PIAA. You, of all people, know that. But I thought they made the right call here, especially when I read in the paper that not only were fans being charged with criminal offenses, but players from both teams were being charged with criminal offenses. It's the responsibility of the coach to make sure that his players are under control and to act accordingly. We've played in so many emotional games at Newcastle. You've been there. You've covered them. In 15 years, Ralph Belundo has had one technical foul, and it was for being out of the coach's box. It wasn't for anything he said or for riding an official, because he gets it. He gets it, and our players get it. I can't imagine that scenario ever happening at Newcastle High School, where our players are leaving the bench and entering into the altercation that ultimately occurred. I just can't imagine that ever happening.
Right.
Not with this coaching staff. And so I agree with the PIAA. Before they even did it, I said there should be a double forfeit. Everybody goes home. Unfortunate for some of the seniors, but this is unacceptable behavior, and you have to send a very strong statement that it's unacceptable, and if it happens, there will be consequences.
Yeah, let's hope that it reaches beyond the communities of Meadville and Uniontown, meaning let's hope that fans from wherever you're talking about look at that and say, all right, well, that costs those teams a double forfeit. When I go to a ball game, I'm going to have to make sure I sit in my seat and behave myself, no matter what somebody else from another school district is doing. You know, you gotta learn from other people's mistake and behave yourself.
Absolutely, Ronnie. Easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the statement that the PIAA made is going to have long-reaching effect. I don't know that it will, because crazy fans are crazy fans, Ronnie. It's a very emotional game, and but a lot of it has to do with the coaches. I don't know what the coach from Meadville or the coach from Uniontown was doing. I don't know. But if the coach is out of control, the fans are going to be right with him. If the coach loses his composure, then the people in the stands are going to lose theirs. So a lot of it has to do with the coach. You can't lose your composure. And as I said, I'm not saying I was a great basketball coach, but I'm proud of the fact that in 25 years I never got a technical foul at any level. And because I realized the consequences of my action, both as it relates to my players and the people in the stands.
Yeah, I'm going to read a little bit of what Pete sent us earlier today, an email. I'm sure you got this as well. 7 people, both adults and teens, including 3 basketball players, were charged in that, or facing charges from Friday night's brawl. And they include 3 from Uniontown. A 44-year-old man, you would think he would know the difference between right and wrong. An 18-year-old who is a player, and another 16-year-old fan. 4 Meadville people, various ages, from the 20s and 30s to teenagers. I'm surprised that this happened, but I guess maybe I'm not. Maybe we shouldn't be surprised.
It's happened before, Ronnie. This isn't the first time this has happened. And again, I think a lot of it falls on the shoulder of the coaches. I've watched a lot of basketball games, and I've watched coaches who are totally out of control. Mm-hmm. And again, when they lose their composure, players lose theirs, fans lose theirs. You just can't. You can't. There's a responsibility that you have in that position to to act and acquit yourself in a certain fashion, or else stuff like this can happen.
Now, there's a third party that we haven't mentioned, and that third party would be Hershey. I believe that's the team that was sitting there waiting. Are we going to play Meadville? Are we playing nobody? We got to figure out what's going on. And it ultimately ended up being a double forfeiture. But okay, Larry, you're a member of the Hershey coaching staff, administration, what have you. How difficult is that for Hershey, not knowing who you're playing, if you're playing, that extra downtime, because now you got to fill it with maybe an extra scrimmage or 2 that you weren't expecting?
I don't think it's that big a deal, Ronnie. I mean, not at this stage of the game. You've played probably 30 basketball games through the season so far, mm-hmm. and I don't think it's a big deal. I think Hershey's probably feeling fortunate that they got the bye to the next round.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Larry, you'd like to talk about these schools? And then keep in mind, for you, Larry, and for everybody else, we will have a show next week and talk more about the other schools. So anything else that you'd like to get out there on these teams?
No, again, I just thought it was a great year for Newcastle basketball. I'm deeply committed to Newcastle High School. This was the last group of seniors that I actually had an opportunity to coach at the junior high level. So, there's a certain affinity that I've had with Kyrell and little Ralphie. I had those guys when they were just kids, and, it was fun to watch them grow. It was fun to watch them have success. It was hard to see them fall just a smidgen short of a special year. There's a fine line, Ronnie, between a great year and one that's special. And they had a great year. And had they won the WPIAL championship, it would have been a special year. But that certainly doesn't diminish the fact that they had a great year, and those seniors had a great career.
Sure. All right. He's Larry Kelly. We appreciate Larry joining us this week. I'm Ron Poniewasz. We will be back here next week on Tip-Off to close up the season, and we'll do that next week. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
We all know there's an advantage to playing at home, to being the home team. At LGKG, we've been your home team personal injury attorneys for auto accident and workers' compensation cases for over 90 years. We know what works and how to win. We have all the credentials. At LGKG, we don't take every case. We handpick our clients so that we can give you the attention you deserve.
Okay, my brother. Thank you. Good show.